Ever look at the stock market and just feel lost? So many options, so much jargon. It can feel really overwhelming. But what if there was a way to make it all a lot simpler? Well, today we're going to break down a really powerful tool that makes investing easy and diversified, all in one package. Let's dive in.
So I want you to meet Susanna. Like a lot of us, she's saved up a bit of money and she has a simple goal. She wants that money to start working for her. A great idea, right? But she's finding out that the path to actually growing your money, well, it feels pretty complicated.
And this really gets to the heart of the issue, doesn't it? How can a regular person, someone who doesn't have a giant fortune, buy a piece of the entire market? How does Susanna get a slice of the whole economic pie instead of just betting on one or two companies and, well, hoping for the best? And that right there is the classic investor's dilemma. It's probably the first big hurdle that every single investor, whether you're a beginner like Susanna or a seasoned pro, has to figure out. Okay, so let's just imagine for a second that the entire stock market is a giant fruit industry. To play it safe and diversify, Susanna could try to buy one share from every single one of the top 1,000 fruit companies. But just think about that. Think of the cost of all those separate purchases, not to mention the headache of trying to manage 1,000 different investments. For most people, it's not going to happen. So you've basically got two choices here. On one side, you have the hard way, 1,000 transactions, crazy high costs, and just a total logistical nightmare. But look at the other side. There's a much simpler path, a single purchase to get the exact same result. This points to a much, much smarter way of doing things. And that smarter way is what we can call the one basket solution. It's a really elegant answer to Susanna's very complicated problem. So what is this one basket? Well, it's an exchange-traded fund, or what everyone calls an ETF. Basically, it's a fund that pulls together hundreds, sometimes thousands of different assets, like all those fruit company stocks we talked about. But here's the magic part. It lets you buy a tiny piece of that entire collection with a single share. You can buy and sell it on the stock exchange just like you would a share of Apple or any other company. It makes diversification incredibly simple. And believe me, this idea goes way beyond our little fruit analogy. You can buy an ETF that tracks the entire US stock market, or maybe one that focuses on a specific region like Europe or emerging markets in Asia. You can even zoom in on certain industries like technology or transportation, or choose funds that focus only on sustainable, green investments. The options are just massive. So how does this whole one basket thing actually work under the hood? Let's peel back the layers and look at the mechanics that make an ETF so incredibly efficient. Okay, now this is probably the most important thing to understand. An ETF doesn't have a manager who's trying to pick winning stocks to beat the market. No. Instead, its only goal is to mirror the market. And it does this by tracking something called an index, which is really just a list of companies that represents a certain part of the market. So if the overall fruit market index goes up by 1%, the fruit ETF goes up by almost the exact same amount. Simple as that. And this is where you really see the power of diversification. So let's say one of those fruit companies, Mickey Citrus, has a really bad quarter, and its stock price tanks. Well, in an ETF with 1,000 companies, that one company is just a teeny tiny sliver of the whole pie. Its bad performance gets cushioned by the other 999 companies, which means the impact on your overall investment is barely even noticeable. This whole market mirroring strategy, well, it has a name. It's called a passive investment. And because the ETF is just automatically following a preset list, that index, it doesn't need a team of expensive fund managers who are constantly buying and selling stocks. That automation is exactly why the management fees for ETFs are usually incredibly low. Of course, no investment strategy is absolutely perfect. So it's really important that we look at both sides of the coin when we're talking about ETFs. So the advantages are pretty clear, right? You get instant diversification across tons of companies. The fees are super low because of that passive structure, and they're flexible. You can buy or sell them any day the market is open. On the other hand, the main disadvantage is that because it's automated, the fund might be a little slower to react if one single company has a sudden catastrophic drop, compared to a fund where a human manager could step in and sell it immediately. All right, now for what might be the best part. For all their power and sophistication, getting started with ETFs is actually remarkably simple and accessible. You do not need a fortune to get in the game. A lot of brokerage platforms will let you set up an automatic savings plan, investing as little as, say, 25 euros every single month. This low barrier to entry means that pretty much anyone can start building wealth over time. And what about flexibility? Well, there's no minimum holding period. You aren't locked into your investment for years and years. If you need the money, you can sell your ETF shares any day the stock market is open. You have complete control. Before we wrap this up, there's one final, absolutely crucial point we need to cover. And honestly, this might be the most important piece of advice for any new investor. I really want this to sink in. While ETFs are a fantastic tool, they are still an investment in the market. And markets go up, but they also go down. There are always risks involved, which is why it is absolutely essential that you do your own homework and research to really understand what you're putting your money into.
So there you have it. An ETF is a simple way to buy a diverse portfolio in a single, low-cost, and super flexible share. It really puts the power of market investing into the hands of everyone, from Susanna to you. So now that you've got the basics down, the real question is, what are you curious to learn about next?